And away we go. And by we, I mean Dan Stravin and Dave Lochran. We're back here. It's been a couple of weeks. Dave, deer in headlights, always like that. We are ready to go. Year number 6, potentially, of NBA between Dave and I think that's right. Maybe 5 or 6. I'm not really sure.
Man.
It's 6.
It's 6, yeah.
We made this happen. The DFS industry, it's me and Dave. That's it. No, just kidding. The DFS podcast, whatever.
Well, the first daily podcast was us. So.
It's fun to just bring that up whenever I have an opportunity.
That's true.
We're early on in the year. We're going to talk about this NBA 9-game slate for Friday. We're going to dive into some plays at each position. Point guard through to center. We're going to use DraftKings as our jumping off point, as we always do. We are sponsored in part by Yahoo DFS. We're going to talk a little bit about pricing over there, but I want to point you to that Awesemo.com has a ton of content specific to each site. Projections, you have Fantasy Cruncher add-on, so much more available to you if you become a member. So use that promo code EARLYBIRD, and that gets you 50% off your first month. Hit the like button, all the things you're told on all the different shows we have. We have a ton of free content also in front of the paywall. You'll see Dave fairly regularly now that NFL and NBA are happening at the same time. You may see him more than his wife does. That's a different story for a different time. But Dave, how the hell are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm looking at this Twitter video of Westbrook and Harden apparently in a heated conversation during a break.
There's going to be a lot of those.
I'll tell you what, though. Westbrook right now is on pace to play like less than 30 minutes in this game.
Yep.
What's going on with that?
It didn't make it made no sense. The deal made no sense. We're talking about now, tandems are more popular than the three, the trios, but I never made any bones about this being a good deal in my eyes. I don't get how Westbrook and Harden fit together.
There were a lot of smart people that said it could work, so I kind of changed my tune on it, and maybe it can. D'Antoni's good at staggering them. We saw that with Paul and Harden before. But, yeah, I think for fantasy it could be good. I'm not sure how well it's going to work when they're on the floor together to close out games. The problem is that Westbrook is not very valuable if he's not handling the ball.
Well, that's the big thing for me. He doesn't hit the three. So
exactly.
Yeah.
He can't really hit jump shots either. But he's a phenomenal passer. He's got great court vision. Harden's also a great passer, but he can knock down the three, and he makes it impossible to defend him when you know that, he can see everywhere on the court. He can dish out quality passes, but he can knock those shots down. So if Westbrook's handling the ball, it's hard for me to understand exactly what you're going to get from these two when they're on the court. Is Harden going to spot up and you're going to wait? And it's not going to happen all the time, but like what happens, in the last 3 minutes of a close game, it'll be interesting to see. I'm not sure it's going to work that well, although they are winning quite handily over Milwaukee right now.
Right, and that's a great point. The results that matter, the wins and losses from a DFS perspective. I do think Westbrook's price point is going to be a big thing to consider, right? Like, when do you roster him? When do you get to the point where you say it's let's call it the Oladipo factor, right? You talked about Oladipo so many times over the past 2 years of if he hits 8K, you start to worry about him. Now, pricing each slate matters, and I'm not saying it's contextually the same, but I think Westbrook's price point is going to matter so much this year. And I think it's going to be to a point where if he's not rebounding at a high rate and he's not handling the ball as a high rate, it's going to matter whether or not he's 9.5 as compared to 8.2 or 8.5, depending on how DraftKings really is weighting their pricing on any given slate. We are early on in the season, so stats are obviously very minuscule. Sample sizes are small, so we're going to do our best to dive through some of the noise that is from game ones, get Dave's take. Obviously, again, I point you to Awesemo.com for even more. As Friday goes along, the NBA Strategy Show will be available over on YouTube as well. On DK, which we'll use as our jumping off point, LeBron is point guard eligible. I'm going to leave him for small forward just simply because it feels odd to talk about LeBron as a point guard. That's my own personal preference. Luka Doncic coming off a big game. The name I want to talk to you about and then give you sort of some room to run here, Dave, on names that you're considering for some potential plays on Fridays, Kyrie Irving. Now, this is a Nets team that multiple articles wrote that they're a faceless team, right? You think of Game of Thrones and the faceless men, I think was a bunch of the references, but they don't have an identity quite yet. Lots of new faces, lots of guys who are coming in thinking that between Durant and Kyrie Irving, this is a team that may be championship caliber over the next couple of years. Do you see this as a usage boom and as a shot boon for Irving, and until further notice, he should be rostered simply because of the volume of how many shots, how much the ball will be in his hand, and how much he'll be the face of this offense moving forward? Or do you feel as though that his price point is where it deserves to be at $9K and you'd rather go elsewhere on this slate?
First off, I don't really agree with the whole faceless team thing. I know it wasn't your statement, but if a team that's led by Kyrie Irving is a faceless team, what are the Hawks? What are the Grizzlies?
Oh, sure.
What are the Jazz? I mean, is Rudy Gobert or Mike Conley, who shot 1 for 97 the other day? Like, you know what I mean? Are those non-faceless teams? Are those teams with faces? The Knicks. Seriously, you see what I'm saying here? Like, there's so many teams where if we're considering an identity, who's the front man on this team? A lot of them don't have anybody that really stands out. Kyrie Irving's an elite basketball player, though. 41% usage in that first game was fantastic. Dropped 50 in his first game with the Nets. How do you not love that? Now he's got the Knicks. I mean, it's a really great spot. The biggest thing it comes down to is, are we going to be able to get elite number assists from Irving? Because that's not something we've seen in the past. He's been a decent enough facilitator. Rebounds, really nothing, averaging 3.7 for his career, 5.7 assists per game for his career. That's kind of what separates him and some of these other top flight point guards, because you're not going to drop 40 or 50 points every night, right? There's going to be the games where you struggle from the field, especially 3-point shooters like Irving, and you're going to have only 22 points. Can you salvage with 9 assists and 8 rebounds? If you can do something like that, then you're going to be very, very valuable. I still think he's going to be always going to be very valuable. And against this Knicks team, I like him for sure. But I think I lean towards Luka Doncic here, who's a little bit more expensive. Yeah, he might be going up against Alonzo Ball and Drew Holiday backcourt defense, and that's solid. I take nothing away from him. But Luka Doncic, man, he just gets it done in every single way. And he's exactly the type of guy that I love to pay for. Him and Irving basically at the same price. You're talking about somebody in Doncic in his rookie season had a 30% usage rate, 32% assist rate, and 13% rebounding rate, right? Like, these are insane numbers. He had a 36% usage rate the other night, and that was with Kristaps Porzingis on the floor. They really don't have many bodies. Tim Hardaway isn't getting minutes. It's not like Maxi Kleber or Dwight Powell when he returns are gonna do much to take that away. There really isn't anyone else on this team. Dorian Finney-Smith. So it's really led by Doncic. Porzingis is going to play a significant role, of course, but this is Doncic's team. New Orleans are a fast-paced team as well, so you have that working in your favor. I really like him at the top.
As we continue here at point guard, want to give some price points to digest for everybody. You do have at the top end Doncic, Kyrie Irving. You have Lillard against Sacramento at 8,800, Booker 84, Drew Holiday at 85, Kemba Walker, who was, I guess, mediocre is a reasonable word to use in his Boston. Man.
And that's a Sixers team that he usually beats the piss out of. That defense is going to be pretty scary this year.
I think that of all the faceless teams, Boston is one that I don't know that really has an identity. With the players that have moved in and out, I think can be an exciting team. I think Tatum and I think Gordon Hayward, if he makes his way back, can be a legitimate threat on this squad. But I'm not really sure what or who Boston will be. Donovan Mitchell is point guard, shooting guard eligible, and somebody I want to come back to at shooting guard specifically. But we get into this mid-tier, Lofty, and if I missed anybody, feel free to jump in. But Lowry, Conley was awful. I think, in fact, you said 1 for 98. I think he was 1 for 16.
He was.
I think it was the exact numbers.
He was.
You have Terry Rozier, and then you get into this middle ground where all of a sudden we have lots of questionable names, guys who we don't know their exact roles or how much they'll actually have the ball in their hands when crunch time comes down from a DFS perspective. Who's in the mid-tier? Who's a cheap option? Who are some of these names throughout point guard? As DK shows us, we'll hit on some other price points on Yahoo momentarily that at least pique your interest, guys, you want to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I mean, I think Terry Rozier is a fine player, but there's nothing exciting about this price point, right? I mean, you're going to get some decent games from him, but remember, we loved Terry Rozier before because we were getting him at 4,000, 4,500 when Kyrie Irving was out. You know, let's also not ignore that assists are going to be harder to come by on a Charlotte team that, bro, you want to talk about a faceless team? What about Charlotte? I mean, that's as faceless as it comes.
Do not denigrate Marvin Williams like that.
I mean, hell, now they don't even have Nick Batum. Give me a player on that team that Terry Rozier, who was a backup last year. He's the face of that team. Look, I just don't see the need to get there. Zach LaVine's got a tough spot against Memphis. His price is fine, but I don't think it's fine for this matchup. I like Chris Paul though, and he went entirely overlooked on Wednesday. Ended up having like 41 fantasy points, 40 fantasy points. Wasn't bad, wasn't great, but wasn't bad. But this is Chris Paul's team. He's never going to do what Westbrook did for Oklahoma City, but he's definitely going to have an opportunity to do whatever he wants. Like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander isn't going to put up 25 points every game. I think Chris Paul's really, really interesting here. In that first game, he had decent numbers, like 25% usage. I think that actually comes up. 23% assist rate. I think that comes up. Rebound rate, 13%. These are only one game, right? So don't take – well, all I'm saying is that everything should come up quite a bit here. I really think it will. That matchup against Memphis, they're going to be a good defense. I know they got some young players, but they're a well-coached team with quality defense. So I think Chris Paul at this price on OKC is really interesting. Aside from that, we'll get into a lot more on the strategy show in the deeper dive. But De'Aaron Fox struggled out of the gate. I expect him to have a big year. Probably don't get to him at that price point only because the position has plenty of value and in that mid-range. And then there's not a lot of value right here at point guard. So I think we'll be able to find it elsewhere. But just looking at value, I don't know where you're going to find guys, especially not guys that are getting like 30 minutes.
Well, right.
Jeff Teague is cheap going up against Charlotte. If he gets 30-plus minutes, he could be all right. But aside from that, it's ugly. The only other guy I throw at you, and he's really a boomer, but he's a hit-or-miss player every single night, would be Jamal Murray. Look, it's against the Phoenix team that, by the way, DeAndre Ayton just got suspended for 25 games. I don't know if it's going to hold. They're saying that the Players Association is going to file to rescind it or lessen it. So we'll find out. But, yeah, that's not good. Murray could be a pretty interesting play here in a game that's going to have a pretty high total. Right now, 221 total, one of the higher on the slate.
I will say that I am keeping an eye, and this is homerism happening, but on Alfred Payton and how he plays for the Knicks as this early season goes on. I know he was not in the starting lineup, but did start the second half. Fizdale is trying to figure out exactly how these rotations are going to work. He played very well. So if he gets a 28 to 32 minute sort of rotation, I think Payton at 4,600 against Brooklyn could be a upside play at a cheap price point at point guard, where I agree with Dave that there isn't much at the cheap end of the pool. But at point guard, Doncic eligible here. Bradley Beal off the ejection, which was a mess. The NBA referees have their struggles. He was ejected for basically waving the referee away, which is absurd. But you get Holiday, Booker, and Donovan Mitchell's the name I want to focus on here most of all. This is a Utah team that, again, new faces, new places. Mitchell's a guy that we've seen many times over as a high upside engine sort of guy. on opening night. The win over Oklahoma City, scored 32 points, had 12 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal. That is very high-end output. And on this slate, he's just 7,700, gets a matchup with the Lakers. This should be a pace game for the Jazz. Do you see Mitchell as one of the top-end guys, 7K or above, or do you see someone else that you prefer?
No, I think Mitchell's fine here. I would say one thing. This is a different team, though. Danny Green is a good defender. This isn't the same Lakers team as last year. They've got Danny Green. They got Avery Bradley. Like, they've got some good on-ball defenders that could make life tough for opposing two guards. I think Mitchell, though, is at a price where you can consider him. But yeah, this worries me. Let me tell you something else. In that game against the Clippers, so we had seen 11 games on Wednesday, so 13 total games. That was the slowest pace game of every game that we had seen. So of 13 games, 26 teams playing, that was the slowest pace game, 97. Right? That's pretty crazy. So I don't know if it holds up, but I think the Lakers are going to play a lot slower this year. It's something to keep an eye on. Mitchell's fine, but he wouldn't be one of my top options here. Doncic is eligible, of course. The price point on Bradley Beal, I think, is reasonable, but I don't think you need to go there. Drew Holiday's also seen his price tag come up. There isn't a lot that I'm in love with at the top. Devin Booker against Denver.
Let's be honest. There's not a lot to love at shooting guard, period.
No, there's really not. I could make an argument for Wiggins just because he's discounted. CJ McCollum against Sacramento is an interesting one here. He's 6,200. He's going to get his 34, 35 minutes, so that's favorable. And then, do you pay up for Fed VanVleet after that really, really strong game? I still have a lot of respect for Boston's defense, but they're not the same team they were. Rim protection is not going to be nearly as good. Not sure how that matters for guards. I mean, driving guards, sure, but Robert Williams could be worse, and he's a good shot blocker. But this game is a 216.5 total. Boston's actually a 3-point favorite in this one. I wish I liked shooting guard more, but I don't. Right now, it doesn't feel like a position I pay up at. Actually, no, let me take that back. Luka Doncic would probably be a perfect play at shooting guard, right? Because you're going to have a tough time justifying Beal or Holiday or even Booker against Denver, a great Denver team, those guys over him at very comparable price points. I don't know if you're going to be able to get there. And point guard's got a number of decent options. So I'd probably go Doncic at the 2 and then get somewhere else at the point.
You mentioned Jamal Murray over at point guard. Gary Harris had I guess enigmatic is a little bit of a strong word, but 3 for 11 from the field, 1 for 5 from 3. 3 rebounds, 2 steals in 35 minutes, though. 35 minutes is an intriguing number. We've talked many times. The mums idea that you brought up a couple of years back, minutes, usage, matchup. Do you like Harris at sub 5K when
What's
he's
the
playing?
ask, dude?
Hold on. Minutes, usage, matchup, and
skill. The idea was that one was less important, like skill was less important than the others,
Right. So in descending order.
The matchup was less important than usage and minutes. I think, one might say usage is more important than minutes, but not if you aren't getting the minutes. You know what I mean?
I think there's some interchangeability of some of those factors, but
right, like exactly. But minutes and usage are the most important. Put it that way. But ums wouldn't have sounded good.
It would have been awkward in presentation mode. Gary Harris, 4,700, sub 5K. Is there enough upside there at shooting guard to potentially consider somebody like that?
Absolutely, yeah. Gary Harris is going to play decent minutes each night. Remember, he was dealing with a bunch of injuries last season too. So getting Gary Harris back at full strength to start the season is pretty encouraging. Gary Harris is a fine player. He's not, from a fantasy standpoint, he's nothing special, but he's also not bad. And if you get like 20% usage from Harris here, it should be all right. Mind you, you're very seldom are you going to see games where Harris has like actual big numbers, right? I mean, like you said, he played 35 minutes. He had 8, 3, and 3. It's putrid, but he will get shots up. And there are going to be spots where this guy is putting up, 15, 16 shots a game. At that price, particularly against Phoenix, a team that's going to struggle mightily to defend the perimeter, Gary Harris makes for a decent play. I'm with you.
All right, let's make our way to small forward where we will consider.
Oh, wait.
All right. Is there more? All right, go on.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I forgot about one.
Sure.
This is based on injuries, but if Buddy Hield is out,
okay. Yep.
it would be. And by the way, if anyone's wondering, he is questionable with that ankle injury.
Yep.
If he does happen to sit, it's going to be really hard to get away from Bogdanovich here. He's a decent enough player.
Yep.
He is good. If you watch him,
also questionable. He is questionable. Last report I saw against Lakers because of an ankle issue.
That's Utah's Bogdan. That's Boyan, not Bogdan.
Oh, am I on the wrong Bogdanovich?
Yeah. So Bogdan for Sacramento is healthy. Oh wait, no.
He's questionable with an ankle. Yeah.
They're both questionable.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they're both questionable. That's funny. Actually, no. Hold on a second.
Bogdan.
No. The player news is wrong. They put it on both. Boyan's questionable. Bogdan
Jesus
isn't.
Christ.
They Roto World put the wrong
all right
note in.
Go on. I will not interrupt again.
That's not on you though. That's on Roto World.
Bogdan. Yeah, it's fine. Everything's fine.
He's going to. I would actually. If he starts, he's going to be competing for opportunities. But here's the big thing. Marvin Bagley's also out for 4 to 6 weeks, right? So, what's going to give here? No Bagley. Dedmon's not a high usage guy. Harrison Barnes, that contract they gave him is egregious. And Buddy Hield's really the highest volume shooter on this team. De'Aaron Fox is a good player, but he's playmaker first. This could be a game where Bogdanovich jacks up like 17 field goal attempts. It's like the high end of projection. But if he starts and Buddy Hield's out, knowing that Bagley's also out for over a month, this could be a really great spot. Not the best matchup, but you don't really care about that if he's going to see all of that opportunity with 2 of the highest volume shooters on the team out.
I will say it's funny, and obviously we do as much research as we can coming into this, and I will admit that I pull player names up as we're on the fly, but you Google Bogdan Bogdanovich and you still get 2 or 3 links to the ankle injury, which is Bojan Bogdanovic.
Yeah.
Let's be better. Let's be better API calls. Let's be better Roto World and CBS Sports who's linking to the wrong player. Like this, they've been in the league long enough that we should understand who is who and what is what. At
least they got it on Bojan too.
Amazing. But let's hit small forward, and we'll talk through some top plays here, and then Dave will touch on some of the guys that maybe are not on your radar. As always, tons of content. Dave, Adam, EMAC, the whole crew, Alex, obviously, with projections and the like. You get rankings. You may even get some top plays and some survey results from me this year. I mean, what can't you like about that? Like, that's amazing that you get some Dan Strafford love as well as we go through. But small forward, you get LeBron, point guard, small forward eligible on DraftKings. He's at 9,500. Then you drop all the way down to Danilo Gallinari at 7,100. Brandon Ingram, who I will not roster until he's about 5K, because that's where I think he's going to end up at some point. Jason Tatum, and we go on from there. A small forward is not eliciting a lot of confidence from me, Dave. I will say that LeBron feels pretty good, even against a Utah team that tends to play better defense. What do you see? Where do you go? Who's the guy that stands out to you at small forward?
A couple of them. Number one, well, it is going to be a pretty rough position this season. I agree with you on that. I think you're going to be hard-pressed to find value here, although a lot of the top guys are going to be in play. LeBron James, I mean, I don't he's not egregiously priced, but I think he's accurately priced. I don't know if you really need to get here. I mean, a couple of things. The Clippers were a tough matchup. Utah is going to be a tough matchup. And there are going to be plenty of times this season where we're rostering LeBron James, especially if his price tag stays at this point. He did have a 31% usage rate in that first game, 38% assists. Those are solid numbers. I like that. 14% rebounding. But really the question is, where do you want to go with the highest priced guys on this slate? You have Towns against Charlotte. You have Davis at a similar price. You have Jokic against Phoenix, Doncic against New Orleans. I'll throw Irving in there against New York. I don't know if I can prioritize LeBron here. So as of now, I'm not prioritizing him. I forgot to mention, by the way, when I talked about Chris Paul saying that Gilgeous-Alexander wasn't going to be somebody that racks up those type of point totals each night. I forgot about, of course, Danilo Gallinari. Well, I always want to call him Danilo Gallinari, but it's Danilo, I guess.
That is what the Knicks PA announcer called him.
No. It is. No. It is Danilo.
Because we're into me mispronouncing NBA name season, so I just want to get out.
No. Sorry, I shouldn't have said I guess. It is Danilo. It is Danilo Gallinari, but I hear Danilo Gallinari all the time. If it was Danilo, it would have been 2 L's. I'm pretty certain. So, hold on. Let me get to our trusty basketball reference and make sure I'm accurate on this one, because I don't want to be wrong on our first podcast of the season. That'd be bad.
Funny, it's we're both wrong. It's Danilo. Danilo.
I don't buy it.
That makes me so happy.
Basketball reference is never right. So anyway.
Well, it makes sense because I always thought the Knicks PA announcer was just going through his like histrionics, like he was just getting crazy, but he was always Danilo Gallinari. So right. There it is.
Right. Well, I'm going to call him Danilo.
This will also serve as my audition tape to be a PA announcer somewhere. So
yeah, I mean, who knows at this point, man? Whatever. Anyway, he should see plenty of opportunities for the 15 games he plays this season, and I would expect him to see quality usage here. He's an okay rebounder. You know, he had a double-digit rebounding rate last year for the first time of his career, 10% to be exact. I think Danilo is fine, but you're not going to get those type of big peripherals from him. And he played 28 minutes last game. You have to worry so much about his playing time. You know, he's always injured. Is he going to max out at 30 minutes? Like, I really don't even know at this point. So with that being the case, I think I would probably stay away from him too. I talked about Wiggins a little bit. Mind you, by the way, Dan, there are some tough matchups like Boston, Toronto. Neither of them are favorable spots. Washington, OKC should still be a decent enough defense. I think the Lakers defense will be improved despite that showing on Tuesday. The Clippers offense is really good. Utah, Denver, Portland, there's some good defenses. And it's going to make it tough for us to land on guys that we really like. Bogdanovich is eligible here, so that's nice. I would say that some of these Charlotte guys are playable, and maybe they are, but DraftKings decided to price them all like they're actual decent starters. Like Dwayne Bacon, for example, he played 33 minutes in his first game, had 22 points. Is Dwayne Bacon someone that we can consider? Yeah, it's possible. 33% usage in that game. I don't hate the idea of it, not against Minnesota, a Minnesota team that is not going to be very good this season. But just keep in mind that these guys are probably a little bit overpriced, at least with what we know of them now. You know, people may speculate, they may have their projections that he's going to be good, he's going to be this, he's going to be that. But when it comes to a lot of these Charlotte guys, it's really difficult for us to know what they should actually be priced at, like what an accurate price point would be right now. But you know what? Someone has to shoot. Someone has to get the opportunities for those teams. And if that's the case, you know, maybe it'll be Bacon. I'll tell you this much: for the first game, Was that an overtime game? I can't remember if that was the OT game.
For Charlotte?
Was it well, no. Minnesota went into overtime against someone. I can't remember who it was. Minnesota. Remember who it was?
There were a couple of OT games.
Brooklyn.
Yep.
Minnesota, Brooklyn. Wait, there weren't.
Wasn't there a second OT game?
I don't think so.
Didn't the Toronto game go to overtime?
Yeah, but that was Tuesday.
Oh, got it. You were just got it.
Yeah, just Wednesday. So your minutes here: PJ Washington played 38, Zeller 35 minutes, pretty crazy. Bacon 33, Bridges 32, Rozier 30, Devontae Graham 27, then Marvin and Monk and Batum, who is out for a while. Batum played only 11 in that one. These guys all played 16 or less. But usage, Dwayne Bacon easily had the highest usage by 10%, 33% usage, 24% for PJ Washington, 21% for Williams, 18% for Rozier. Another reason why it's tough to love him. Bacon might actually be the guy that kind of not runs away with this offense, but sees the bulk of opportunities as a shooter.
I think small forward has some opportunity here. I want to ask two more questions. We'll move on to power forward. There are two names here at the cheaper end of the small forward pool that I'm at least enough intrigued by here, and that is OG Anunoby, who is 4,300, got the start for the Toronto Raptors against the Boston Celtics. And then I want to scroll up a little bit more expensive in price to Kelly Oubre Jr. at 5,700. Now, these are two different players, two different price points, but just getting down to the bottom end, Oubre is a guy we've seen some flashes from, has potential to fill up the box score for the Phoenix Suns, and then Anunoby as a starter with this Toronto team at a very cheap price point. Wondering if at 4,300 or 5,700, either of those, at least early on here, could cross the radar as potential plays on Friday.
Yeah. I don't – OG Anunoby is – God, he's just not a very good player from a production standpoint. You know, I think he'll have some decent games here and there because he's going to be on the floor, but that's about where it ends. You know, last year he averaged, and this is DraftKings points where you're including double-doubles and stuff, 0.67 fantasy points per minute. Look, it should improve with no Kawhi Leonard. I understand that much, but I don't think you get it past like 0.8. So if you're getting the minutes from him and we get 30 minutes from Anunoby, I'm fine with that. And I think it's reasonable enough to consider him there. And then with Kelly Oubre, the big thing here is, well, first of all, I'm assuming Ayton's going to have to start serving the suspension right away, even if they petition to get it rescinded. But Oubre led the team in usage with a 27% usage rate in game one. Look, we don't have a lot of data to go off of, so when I'm using these one-game samples, you have to just bear with me because while it may only be one game, it does give you an idea of, hey, was he involved at all? Was he involved? Yes or no? And it does give us a look inside what could be coming down the pike. He played 30 minutes, and he had a 27% usage rate. So I think, yeah, Oubre could be in play here. Like I said, though, him and Bacon, the price points, they're kind of in no man's land, but the whole position at small forward feels the same way. So I don't mind rolling the dice on one of those guys, especially someone in Oubre who jacked up 17 shots. But last thing I'll say about him is, mind you, this matchup is a lot less appealing than the one against Sacramento was on opening night.
That makes sense. Let's go to power forward, where Anthony Davis is our second most expensive player on DraftKings behind Karl-Anthony Towns at center only. So you have AD at 10K. Julius Randle for the Knicks is at 8,100. Pascal Siakam, oh, it's so good to be back. Markkanen at 8K. Porzingis, and we go on from there. I want to ask you about Siakam at the top end. Boston, you mentioned them being one of the better defensive teams. You still respect that defense. Siakam still somewhat of an unknown. I think his progression throughout the winter into the spring and obviously through the playoffs was maybe not a surprise for people who are intently involved in scouting NBA, but for those of us playing DFS and trying to pay attention, a little bit of a surprise that he came on as strong as he did. I want to ask you, do you buy into it? Do you think that he is a legitimate top end play night in, night out in DFS, and at 8,100 on DK against the Boston Celtics at power forward. Do you think Siakam is somebody that you'll be looking at on this slate?
Yeah, this dude's really good, man. He's really, really good. There's no doubt about it. I think the question you pose is a fair one, but he's really good. Absolutely. Now, take a step back for a second and let's look at what's around us here. Let's start with Julius Randle. Julius Randle is also a good player. Looks like Siakam is likely going to be better than Julius Randle if the trajectory continues the way it is. But I think one thing I loved to see about Randle in that first game, and it came in a tough matchup against the Spurs, is look at, first of all, 35 minutes, right? But he had 6 assists, 11 rebounds, 25 points. Now I look a lot of stuff up on the go here, but I'm very curious to see. I'm going to pull it up right now what his potential assists were, Dan. It's an important stat because if you had 6 assists on 6 potential assists, you know that it's likely you're going to start seeing less assists going forward. But if Julius Randle actually saw a decent amount of opportunities, then it makes me like him even more. So let's go ahead and see here. Potential assists for Julius Randle were 6. What'd I say, dude? What'd I say? He had 6 potential assists.
There it is.
Game. Look, let me be clear too. 6 potential assists per power forward actually isn't bad.
Right.
It's just, having 6 assists on 6 potential assists means that, every opportunity you had was knocked down by the shooter. We know he's a good passer and that he's had triple doubles before though. Right. So that's also something that I'm willing to consider. Julius Randle is a very good player. I like him. And against Brooklyn, if you were to tell me that you like Randle over Siakam, I wouldn't argue that at all. The question is, with all of these expensive players elsewhere, are we going to be able to get to him? Anthony Davis, if you wanted to pay $10K for him, I wouldn't hate you for it, but I don't think it's necessary. Lauri Markkanen had a fantastic game, 35 points, 17 rebounds to kick the season off. He played 34 minutes at the 4. The thing though is, matchup isn't everything, but if you're paying the same price for Randle or Siakam, like that's when matchup becomes more important. I like Kristaps Porzingis here. I don't have any issues with him, but I don't like that he played 29 minutes. I like that Randle played 35, flirted with a triple-double to some extent. Randle right now, among the top guys, I'll do a little bit more research, but among everyone, 7K and up, Randle would be the guy I like most.
So the thing for me at power forward, it gets dicey pretty quickly as I scroll through and try to figure out where we might go next. I talked about Brandon Ingram and playing him at a cheaper price point, but he's at 7,100, clearly getting minutes. You get Tatum at 67. Thomas Bryant is at 6,600 for the Washington Wizards, and it goes downhill pretty quickly. You do get Gordon Hayward at 61. Bridges, Allen, Oubre again eligible here, Derek Favors. As we get to the cheap end of the pool, again, not looking for in-depth analysis as I know you have a lot of research left to do, but any names that as you scroll through, guys at cheaper price points than you may have expected, or 1 or 2 names on the lower end of the price points that you think is at least worth doing further research on?
Yeah, Rashawn Holmes with Bagley out. Pretty much have to go. I don't say you have to go there, but you're going to want to go there. This is actually where a lot of the value is going to be at. Rashawn Holmes, Daniel Tice is an interesting one. How many minutes he gets in this one is yet to be seen, but I think it's possible that he could see around 25 minutes. Robert Williams played 20. How many minutes? I can't remember. I cannot remember. By the way, tough matchup with Embiid in that front court with Al Horford. But Williams played, what was it? Hold on a second. Did he only play 11 minutes last game?
Who are you looking at?
Robert Williams. I guess I was getting something mixed up here. He had 4 fouls early. I know that much, but I think he had four personal fouls, 11 minutes. I'll have to look more into that. I'm on the strategy show with Josh in the morning. But Bjelica could be another one here. With Marvin Bagley out, that's going to open up a lot of minutes. So there's
seeing 11 minutes for
and 4 personal fouls.
Yep.
So who knows? But that should turn around. I don't know how much I love him. I think I would go to the Sacramento front court here. That seems to make more sense.
I will point out again with the DeAndre Ayton news that you have the likes of Frank Kaminsky and Czech Diallo and names that you may not be over, like Dario Saric at power forward for Phoenix. Those are all things to consider, not in any way saying you should play them, but considering where minutes can go for the Phoenix front court, might be worthwhile to see some of these cheaper price points and see what you can get against Denver, though may not be the best place to really lean.
By the way, I probably should have explained why I was talking about Robert Williams. It's still early in the year. Enes Kanter's already been ruled out.
Yes.
So that's going to free things up. He would have seen more minutes had he not had 4 fouls. I think a couple of them came very early. But even so, with Kanter sidelined in this one, I think Williams another year into his career, it was definitely brought along slowly last season. No reason not to with Al Horford there and Aaron Baines. But yeah, I think you probably get even if they split, even if these guys split, Tice and Williams split 24-24 at those dirt cheap price points. There's a lot to like.
By the way, while we talk about the Celtics, did you see the injury to Taco Fall?
Was he washing his hands or something?
Yeah, like he hit his head onto the ceiling.
It's not serious, right?
No, he is like concussion symptoms.
Oh my God. No, I didn't. I saw something where it was like Taco Fall injures himself washing his hands.
Yeah, he will not play. Well, I'm sorry, it's a diagnosed concussion.
That's crazy.
And
that's
like
ridiculous.
we've all hit our head. Like you have a bulkhead or like an exit from your basement that goes out to you can hit your head pretty easily on one of those. I've done it. Mm-hmm. Being 7 foot whatever and being in typical people's world and just turning and hitting your head on a ceiling. I did see a brilliant tweet to that saying, Taco Fall hits head on low ceiling, and someone replied, "Was it Jaylen Brown?" It's pretty impressive. That's well done.
Not bad. That's not bad at all. That's
let's
actually
close.
Really good.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. We'll close it out with center. We've talked about a number of these guys already. Karl-Anthony Towns, really good at basketball. Has a matchup with Charlotte here, 10-8. Jokic at 9-3. We've talked about AD a tiny bit. We can talk about him more. Gobert at 8,200. And then you get into some of these MPE guys. Hassan Whiteside had what seemed from watching a very solid outing for the Portland Trailblazers. Still strange to see him out there, but seemed like he was integrating well into that team. Plays the boards really well for them. Gets a matchup with Sacramento. Where do you see your top plays at center, and who are some of the names you want people to keep an eye on?
Yeah, generally this is one of the deepest positions that we find ourselves talking about every day. I'll keep it quick here since we've gone pretty long. Karl-Anthony Towns, he's expensive, but he's outstanding, and paying for him just makes sense. Nikola Jokic at this price point is crazy. He was in early foul trouble, hardly played at all in the first half.
He had 3 fouls, I think, in 5 minutes.
Yep, exactly. Yep. So what are you going to do? Nothing. The only concern I have here is, and I really don't make decisions based on blowouts, but I will at least mention it. They're pretty heavy favorites against a bad Phoenix team, improved but still pretty rough Phoenix team that's going to be without DeAndre Ayton. That's pretty brutal. So I still like Jokic. That seems way too cheap at that price point. Randle's eligible here. A lot of the guys we already talked about are eligible here. Aside from that, if you're looking at some value, well, there's a couple guys that we could choose, but most of them are going to be the same guys that were eligible at power forward. So, Rashawn Holmes, Williams, Tice. The big one, though, and let's see who starts, but with DeAndre Ayton out, you're probably going to get Aaron Baines. So Aaron Baines isn't spot starting in Boston, but he will be spot starting, or he should be spot starting in Phoenix. Maybe it's like Kaminsky, but I doubt it. So
with that matchup, you'd assume it's Baines, right?
You would really hope so, yeah. You would absolutely hope so. Going up against Nikola Jokic, that you would want someone that can protect the paint, and Baines is decent at it. So there's value there for sure. Power forward and center have a lot of it.
So it's that time of year again. NBA is back. So I'm going to ask you 9K and above. So DK pricing people down. Well, let me do this quickly. Over on Yahoo, taking the top players into consideration, $40 and above. You have Beal at 41, Irving at the same price, Lillard at 42, Doncic at 43, Jokic 47, Booker 48, Karl-Anthony Towns is at 48, LeBron at 49, Anthony Davis at $55. So I know I ran through that quickly, but Beal, Irving, Lillard, Doncic, Jokic, Booker, Towns, James, Davis on Yahoo. Who's the guy that at their price points on Yahoo you feel like you may want to build around to start constructing your lineup?
Doncic is one of them.
Lillard at 42, same price, right around Doncic.
Lillard at 42, we probably should have talked about him earlier. Yeah, against Sacramento, that's really solid. What's Julius Randle?
He's just below at $39. He's the odd man out of my list there.
It's a little much. Let's start with Doncic.
All right, so we will now look at DK, where this is my favorite game of all. Irving, Doncic, Jokic, James, Davis, and Towns are all 9K or above. Now, I will make the pretty obvious statement that DK is pricing everyone down to start the year. Not surprising, trying to figure out where their price points fit as the year goes on. I'm sure we will see some 12K and even some 12K and above pricing if we get some real ceiling games and low ownership out of some of these top players. But again, 9K and above, we have Irving, Doncic, Jokic, James, Davis, and Towns. Do you go back to Luka here at 9,200 as your favorite 9K or above play?
Yeah, him and Jokic, man, those price points are just too cheap.
All right, there you have it. I don't know if you guys know this, but you can find Dave on Twitter at Lofty_D.
That is true.
LOUGHY_D. You can find him on Sirius 210 XM 87 each and every Saturday and Sunday with one Manny Laura. They do an amazing job with Osmo Radio over there. You'll want to check them out. You can go to SiriusXM.com to figure out your subscription. There are free periods throughout the year where you can check them out as well. So you see him there. You also see him throughout Osmo.com. Tons of content, live shows, the whole myriad of Dave Loughran that you can get in on. At Dan Stratford for myself, at Osmo_com. For you NBA players, I will advise you to check out the NFL giveaways we're doing on our Twitter handle because it gets you a free premium subscription to everything. It's not just NFL. You can get in for everything. You get Dave and Emac and Adam, Josh, and all the crew when it comes to NBA, throwing Ed Fear and the whole crew doing the great work they do each and every day. So check those out at Osmo_com. As always, like, subscribe, hit that alarm bell so you know when we go live on YouTube. We appreciate you on iTunes. Leave us a comment. Wherever you are, leave us a comment. We appreciate those as well. So,
especially if you're driving.
Yes, totally. Absolutely. I mean, who doesn't do that? With that said, Emac and Adam were with you on Saturday morning. It's myself and the Bachelor in Paradise himself, Chris Rendon, on Sunday into Monday morning. And that is it for this version and edition of the DFS Early Bird presented by Osmo.com.